Just a reminder to make sure to sign in if you want your name to be recorded in the minutes. Just a reminder to sign in at the entrance if you want your name to be recorded in the minutes. I'd like to call the order of the Milan Area Schools Board of Education regular meeting for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you to everyone for attending this evening here and online. All board members are present. We will start with our public comments. Reminder, this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you will be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. I will give you a 30-second warning, and I ask you to finish your thought when the timer goes off. Board members may question speakers, but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation, or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who would like to address the board? Are there any public members who would like to address the board?
Hello, George Elder. I know that by law, the superintendent has a right to request an evaluation happening during closed session. This evaluation holds the core issues within the district and the good and the evil, not just by the superintendent, by the district. I would like to challenge the superintendent to hold his evaluation not in a closed session, but hold it in an open session. That way, there is complete transparency within the district. Voters will have an opportunity to see what is at stake in November's election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. Are there others?
Kirk DeMars. Good evening, everybody. I just want to address a couple things. I've missed a few meetings, but I've watched you guys and stayed up to speed on things going on. Got a couple of concerns over the last couple meetings, things I've seen. One of them has to do with why we're standing here right now, or sitting here right now. I want to thank you for having a meeting on a night other than Wednesday, again. But a few meetings ago, we had a board member state some concern with adjusting the schedule and doing things on nights other than on a Wednesday all the time. I think there's been some precedent set now over the course of this school year where we've seen meetings on other nights be a success and it not be too much of a trouble for people to make adjustments to their schedule. So that was very disappointing to hear that come from a board member saying that they had concern with doing that, when in their same statement they pointed out how it has worked in other scenarios. So that was disappointing to hear. On the matter of the reading of some very, very extremely inappropriate content. It was disappointing for me as a community member to not have a single member on that stage, whether it be board member, assistant superintendent, superintendent, not one of you guys in your opportunity to address the public at the end of the meeting had anything to say about that. Whether it was, and I don't expect you, off the cuff, not prepared to just make an emotional response, but no one during their comments even addressed that it occurred, that those readings occurred, that you would look into things, anything. And believe me, I've been here for plenty of meetings, and I've said some things that have made quite a few of you uncomfortable, and you have not missed a beat to make a reference to my comments in your comments at the end of a meeting. So that's very disappointing as a community member, as a parent, that you guys weren't uncomfortable with that reading. And that for a board member, the next meeting, to double down and say that
30 seconds.
we shouldn't rush to judgment or observation as parents, community members, unless we read the full content of some of these books, that's very disappointing. Because I think it's not too rash for me to say that there's things that our 13 to 18, maybe 19-year-olds know exist in the world, that they don't have to read an entire book and to be subject to some of that content for us to really have an educated opinion on. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. DeMars. Are there others?
As a student of Milan High School, I would like to point out that these books are not here for the things that they have in them, but they're here to educate, and they are educating. There are books like that, preferably one named Catch-22, that I think should actually be required for us to read in school, because people don't understand things, and these books will help us understand them in life. And most of us in this audience don't understand that, because they're not students in this school. So, don't remove the books. The books are there for a reason, so keep them. They're good books. Maybe if you read them, you'd understand that. That's all I have to say.
Can we, sir, can we get your name, please? Lake Foster, thank you. Are there others?
There's not a public comment at the end, right? This is the only one? Okay, gotcha. Brian?
No, there are two public comments. There's one here and one near the end.
Oh, okay, I can wait till the end.
It
That's
doesn't
fine.
matter. You can comment at both
I'll
of
go
them.
since I'm up here, sorry.
Okay,
I wasn't
yeah.
sure if it was public comment or if a discussion of how
They're
to handle
both-
public
they're both-
comment was on the agenda.
Just so everybody's aware, there's 2 times for public to comment, and
Gotcha.
people can comment at both times, and there's 3 minutes for each person to speak. So,
Understood, thank you. Well, I
Sure.
just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Brian O'Shea. I work with Apex Clean Energy. We're working on the Azalea Solar Project located south of town in Milan Township. Had a great opportunity this morning to talk to a lot of teachers at the opening day breakfast about STEM education, how to incorporate energy education in the classroom, and was really excited with just about the interest that we had. We've been working in the area for about 3 years now, working to develop a solar project, and in that time I've had the opportunity to engage with a lot of different school clubs, teachers, opportunities to engage with students who are just genuinely curious and enthusiastic about energy. I just wanted to introduce myself to the board. I've met some folks, but hadn't met everyone. Solar energy really does power better schools all throughout Michigan, and there's a lot of benefits that a solar project like ours would bring to not only the Milan School District, but also the intermediate school districts, the library system, all sorts of education-related sources of tax revenue. And we're really excited to continue to be a partner with the schools. I do have a couple handouts that I'm happy to share with folks who are here or folks on the board after the meeting, just in terms of what we've been working on so far, what we hope to continue to do, and the benefits that the project will bring to the school district once it's constructed. But really just wanted to say thank you for the work you're doing. Thank you to the teachers and students and folks who have really welcomed us to be part of the community, and we look forward to continuing that work. Thank you.
What was your name, sir, again?
Brian O'Shea.
Thank you, Mr. O'Shea. Are there others? Thank you for your comments this evening. We appreciate them. Next up on the agenda is the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th, 2022. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th, 2022.
Moved by Kiger.
Support by Farrow.
It's been moved and supported to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th, 2022. Discussion. Any comments or concerns? It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of August 10th, 2022. Ms. Heika? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Next up, we'll move on to strategic plan business, starting with our learning environment and culture. I need a motion to appoint the members of the 2022-2023 Professional Development Advisory Committee as detailed in Attachment A.
Motion by Rosenleacher.
Support by Farrow.
It's been moved and supported to appoint the members of the 2022-2023 Professional Development Advisory Committee as detailed in Attachment A. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Thank you. So the district administrative team over the summer really reviewed our professional development opportunities with our staff and realized that due to the lack of substitute teachers across the country and here in Milan, that we were not going to be able to provide our staff with the amount of PD that we want to, because in the past we have done some of that during the school day when we could get substitutes to cover their classrooms. For that reason, we are looking to expand 4 of our half days of professional development in the district to full days of professional development. In order to do that, it requires us to be able to use some of that time as contact hours for our students. There's a very prescribed process for that to happen through the state and through the pupil accounting process. One of the pieces that's required is to have a board-appointed committee that reviews all of the general topics that would be used during our professional development with the staff. The committee makeup is even prescribed, so you will notice in the list that the majority of the people on the committee are teachers. That's required. We do have parents, we do have non-teaching staff, and we have administrators on the committee as well. With your approval tonight, that committee is scheduled to meet tomorrow, and that will begin the process of determining our professional development topics. Once they are determined and approved by that committee, we will then be communicating with our entire community to let them know that the 4 half days are being shifted to full days, which honestly I think for a lot of parents dealing with a half day situation is harder sometimes to cover their children's child care in the afternoon only. So we're hoping that this is a win-win for both sides and allows us some time to provide, one, professional development to our teachers, and also professional development to all of our support groups, our administrative assistants, our paraprofessionals, our bus drivers, our kitchen staff. All of them will come in. No one will lose any work hours due to this shift. It's just we will be able to provide some professional development to all of the groups in the district. So again, I ask you to approve this committee that was developed with some help from the board for the parents, from our communications committee, and then teachers, administrators, and non-teaching staff members. Thank you.
Comments or questions?
Mr. Sislo?
Yeah, Ms. Frey.
Mr. Gearbaugh, the folks that were part of the team, were they volunteered or sought after, or how do we come up with the list?
The two parents that are on the committee were actually sought by Mr. Sislo from the Communications Committee. This is really a one meeting, one time a year, and we felt that we had some really good folks on the Communications Committee, and those were selected in a very defined process. So they were selected that way. The teaching staff, each of the principals put out a request to their staff to see who would be interested in serving on that committee, and we accepted volunteers. The administrators, obviously Mr. McMahon, as this affects curriculum and instruction, and then we worked to determine which of the other principals. And again, we limited some of the non-teacher staff because the more non-teachers you get involved, then the more teachers you have to, because the law states the majority have to be teachers. You'll notice I am not a voting member of the committee. I will be presenting the information to the committee and asking them to approve it, but I am not a voting member. We just have the two administrators.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Other questions? I do want to thank Mrs. Brown and Mrs. Powell, who are in the audience, who volunteered for their time to be on this committee. We greatly appreciate it. All right, it's been moved and supported to appoint the members of the 2022-2023 Professional Development Advisory Committee as detailed in Attachment A. Ms. Heika.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Next up in the area of personnel and leadership for our strategic plan, I need a motion to appoint Christopher Sandberg to the administrative position listed in the base salary listed effective August 24th, 2022.
Moved by Farrow.
Support by Macchio.
It's been moved and supported to appoint Christopher Sandberg to the administrative position of Milan Middle School Assistant Principal and the base salary listed effective August 24th, 2022. Comments or questions?
Mr. Sislo?
Ms. Raitt.
I would just like to welcome him and thank him for being here tonight. It's quite an honor to actually have you here to be able to see you in person. Appreciate that from the drive and everything. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Heika.
How was this position advertised?
It was advertised in all of the Michigan State associations. It was advertised on educators.com, which is a national posting site. It was listed on our website, and we shared it with all of the folks in the district in case any teacher had interest in filling the position.
And Mr. Gearbaugh, can you outline the hiring process for this position?
So the hiring process, as defined and approved by the board a couple of years ago, involves posting the position, and there are some requirements in what that posting has to include to make sure that we are considering DEI in those decisions. When it's an assistant principal position, the principal then leads the first interview process. This time was actually multiple interviews. There can be other tasks. They work through those. The principal and a group of teachers are the ones conducting those first rounds of interviews. Because Mr. McMahon was not going to be available for the second round interview date, he actually sat in on the first round so that we made sure that he was part of that process. We then do reference checks, and the principal and that committee recommend 2 to 3 candidates that are then interviewed by myself and Lon Smith and normally Mr. McMahon, but Mr. McMahon had already sat in. So we conducted those interviews of 3 folks. We spent a lot of time talking about those candidates, did reference checks, and determined the best candidate for the position, offered that position, and had conversations with Mr. Sandberg, and we were excited that he accepted the offer, and he understands that it's not final until the board makes the approval tonight.
Thank you.
Mr. Gearbaugh, I have one other question. And maybe I am misremembering this, but didn't we agree that in an administrative position that there was a website that we would advertise the position on? It was a paid site, if I remember it correctly.
I know that we tried that on the previous administrative position, and we got no applicants through that site. So I did not do that this time, as I didn't know whether it was worth the cost. It's a national site, and the last time we posted an administrative position there, we got no applicants through that posting.
Any other comments or questions? All right, it's been moved and supported to appoint Mr. Christopher Sandberg to the Milan Middle School Assistant Principal and the base salary listed effective August 24th, 2022. Ms. Heika.
Gray,
Yes?
Heika, yes. Kiter,
Yes.
Macchio,
Yes.
Rosenleischer,
Yes.
Sislo,
Yes.
Farrow,
Yes.
motion carries.
I just want to thank you, and I do thank Mr. Sandberg for being here tonight, and we hope to be able to introduce him to the staff Thursday morning when we will all be back together. Well, he'll be here to get introduced to the middle school staff tomorrow and all of the staff Thursday. We were not able to obviously introduce him today because he was not officially on the team, but thank you, and I think we're going to see great things out of Christopher. We're excited to have him join our team.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Welcome aboard. Next up in the strategic plan area of communications and community engagement, we are going to receive an update regarding our communications committee update from Ms. Melissa Brown.
Good evening. At our last meeting, we divided into 3 small groups, and then that were focusing on the Big Red Chats and Hot Topics, the website with the organizational chart and governance of the school board, and then the last one was newsletters and social media. And what we've decided is that we are going to have another meeting with these small groups and present our recommendations in a larger, after we communicate them with each other, and then present our recommendations to the board. For example, what we're discussing under the Big Red Chat is to use the district robocall and email to show what topics are going to be discussed at the Big Red Chats and try to get more people involved in coming to those. For the website, it was suggested that instead of having to search under our district to find the school board information, that it be listed under the top header with the other top categories. The organization chart be more prominent along with how the governance of the board works. The other group was the newsletter and social media. They were suggesting that a newsletter be sent out that would be web-based and look at ways at combining the school newsletters and other communications coming from the administration into one space, and also utilizing Facebook and Twitter more effectively than is currently being used. Perhaps like doing board member profiles, staff profiles, did you know this, history, tidbits of the district. Our next meeting, we plan to continue to work in the small groups and combine our presentations together, and we're hoping to have our final recommendation after next month.
Cool. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Also, we do have Mr. Uri and Ms. Powell, who also serve on the committee, who are in attendance. I appreciate you guys coming tonight. Any questions or concerns for the committee? Like Melissa said, we did meet last Monday. Oh, we'll let, she's got one more thing.
Oh, no, I thought I...
Oh, no, yeah, you can say, I thought, yeah, if there's any questions, feel free.
Oh, and also, if anybody here or anybody watching has any topic suggestions or any other ideas, please use our email address for our committee. It's located on the district website under the Board of Directors tab. Please email us. We are looking for suggestions and recommendations to add to our findings.
Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is the 21-22 school quality survey results. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Thank you. So I've been looking forward to bringing this information to you. Just a little bit of the process. As you know, at the end of each year, we do a survey of our community, and we, about a year ago, made the determination that the survey that we had been using was not meeting our needs, and so we sought out a company that does community staff and student surveys. That is their business. It's called K-12 Insights. So we did partner with them, and the nice thing when they conduct the survey is it's truly them conducting the survey. They contact all of the people, they send the surveys out, they recontact those who have not completed the survey yet, they collect all of the data, they summarize the data. This report was not created by the district, it was actually created by K-12 Insights and shared with us. We've worked with a person there who has her PhD in statistics and research. And so I feel very confident that we received a very comprehensive report based on what our community, our staff, our students felt was important information to share with the district. This entire document that you have, the 54 pages, will be placed on the website following our review tonight. The administrative team at our last meeting spent about 2 hours going through it. And looking at it and determining how and what some of these responses tell us, and some focus areas that we will want to work on throughout the school year, some as a district and some in specific buildings. So I'm going to walk you through the survey. I am not going to touch on every page. I'm going to kind of hit the highlights and explain the overall kind of structure of the survey output. And then I will answer questions if you have any. So starting on page 2, this just talks a little bit about the project overview, talks about how the survey was conducted, how they contact people, the main areas of the survey, and just gives a little bit of a summary of what the project was all about. Page 3 starts with some summary insights. The first, I think, is important to recognize that 86% of our parents rated their child's school as excellent or good. 87% of our staff that completed the survey rated our schools as excellent or good. 67% of our participating students rated their school as excellent or good, and we will talk about that score in a little bit. And 87% of our elementary students in grades 3 through 5, the survey, it's really difficult to give a survey to K2 students, rated their school as excellent or good. We were very pleased with those numbers. The secondary students, one of the questions, the nice thing was, not only did they deliver the report, but Ryan and I had about a 45-minute session with the representative from the company, and we were able to ask questions after we were allowed to review the survey. And a lot of the questions I asked is, how do our responses compare to other districts? In other words, we have 67% of our participating secondary students saying that they feel their school is excellent or good. How does that compare? We were told that first, our response rate, which is on the next one of the upcoming pages, our response rate was higher than they normally see, so that made us very confident that we got good information. In all 3 areas, students, staff, and community members, we got a higher percentage of response rate than most districts do. We were informed that some of the areas that we are low in are common areas that districts are low in, and it is very common for secondary students to, I guess I will say, be harsher in some of their feelings about their school and the different aspects that the survey talked about. Not surprising, all of those areas have dropped in the last 2.5 years. And this is the first time we've ever done this, but this survey will be an annual survey because that'll allow us to see from year to year, has the work and the response that we put in place helped us improve in those areas. But they said our scores, for the most part, are in line with other districts that do a similar survey. Our secondary students' responses are a little bit lower, slightly lower than other districts, and so that will be something that we focus on over the next year. is to determine exactly what is causing some of those concerns and what can we do to adjust them. When we get to our net promoter scores at the end, I'll talk a little bit more about our comparison to other districts. The next thing that they do, and I really like this piece, and I feel this is important, is the rest of page 3 and page 4 really provide areas where they see that the responses of the staff maybe don't 100% align with the responses of the students and the community. And that's important for us to see because, you know, there are many reasons that can happen. One, is it perception? Are we not doing enough and a good enough job of communicating some of the things, and is that the reason for the responses? Is there truly a difference, and maybe we see things differently than our community, and we need to hear our community and how those things are viewed differently. All of these areas I asked, how do they compare to other districts, and they said your differences are very similar to other districts. So, you know, for example, when we have 87% of our staff strongly agreeing that teachers give helpful feedback about student work, 76% of parents felt that way, and 58% of secondary students and 61%, it shows you that our parents and our students are slightly lower than our staff in their response to that question. That's common. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't pay attention to it. If we have a perception concern, we need to work on that. If we have a communication concern, we need to work on that. Or if we truly have feelings in the community that we're not doing that well, then those are things that we can focus on. And for those of you that have been on the board long enough to remember our previous survey, I think you see in this survey, this data is going to be so much more useful for us. It's very clear, it's very concise, and it's broken down in several ways that are helpful. And you can see that they talk about those differences in academic support, student support, and then safety and behavior. And again, this entire report will be on the website. It was already shared as part of the board pack, but we will put it out there specifically on the website so that all parents have a chance to review it. And then, like I said, we will be using this as one of our data points to work on school improvement throughout the year. Page 5 gives those response rates, how many people were invited, and then how many responses we got. And again, we were higher in all of those response rates than other districts, and we were happy to see that our community shared information with us. When you go to page 7, what you will start to see is for most items, there are actually 4 pages per concept. And you got to look closely at the top, so you'll see 4 pages say overall quality. The first one says parents and guardians, the second one says staff, the third one says secondary students, and the fourth page says elementary students. That's common through the remainder of the survey data. So you're going to see those 4 groups all discussed separately. These first 4 pages, 7 through 10, are really what was summarized in that first page saying what percentage of our people ranked our schools as excellent or good. So you can also on these pages see how many then ranked it as fair and how many ranked it as poor. Moving on to the academic support section. Again, on the first page of this, you will see a summary. The first question, and I'm not going to go through every question, but just to show you the structure. How strongly do you agree or disagree with the following statements? And on that first page, you get parent, staff, and secondary student responses all kind of documented, and that starts to help you see where some of those differences occur. One of the things we talked about as an administrative team is kind of where would we want to kind of set a cut where it's like, okay, when it's below this, that's an area of concern. And as we looked through this, we really kind of talked in general that, you know, once we dip below 70% of people agreeing or strongly agreeing with something, then that needs to be something that we start to look at. Again, we would love to have 100% of our students, staff, and community supportive of what we do, but we understand that would be difficult to achieve, but we're going to work on improving these numbers. The pages after that then go into those 4 groups, parents, staff, and secondary students, and and then elementary students. And you can see those are really a breakdown of that first page. So page 12 really shows you the overall feeling, and then you can see the specific responses on the 4 pages after. So I'm going to stop there for a minute. Does everybody kind of understand the structure of the survey? Okay. Then you go into the area of student support, and again, you've got that first page that brings in all 3 groups, and then you've got, and you'll notice they don't put the elementary students on there because their questions are worded differently. So they're not on that summary sheet, so you do need to turn to that last page and see how the elementary students responded, and you see that their questions are worded a little bit easier so that they can read them and understand them. There were a couple of questions here that we probably next year will look at asking some follow-up questions to dig a little bit deeper. There was a question, one of the statements that you agree or strongly agree with or disagree or strongly disagree with was it dealt with students and staff showing respect. And we had a concern that there could be a difference in opinion on staff showing respect to students and students showing respect to staff. And so we talked about the fact that we might like to have that broken down into 2 different questions because those could be 2 very different situations. Neither is good if one is off from the other, but when you ask that question all together, you maybe don't get some insight that would be useful. So being the first time we just use their straight off-the-shelf survey, we do have the ability in years to come to ask some additional questions and dig down a little bit deeper in certain areas. You then get into school leadership on pages 24, and then you see the 4 pages after that summarize that, or gets more specific about the data that's summarized on page 24. You then get into family involvement, and it's not shocking after the last couple of years that we've had and our inability at times to allow community members into the schools and things, that some of these percents for volunteer involvement were a little bit lower than we would like. We hope to see that as we can start to open things up and get back into having volunteers in the buildings, that some of these numbers start to come up. You then get to safety and behavior, and you can see the questions that they asked there. And again, there's one of those questions. Staff members and students treat each other with respect. And we're not quite sure when we look at those answers, are they saying staff don't respect students, students don't respect staff? We're not quite sure what that means, and so we'd like a little bit better breakdown of that. One thing I do want to let you know is on the last question of that section, students in this school are treated fairly regardless of their race, culture, religion, sexual orientation, gender, or disability. Behind each group, you will then see a chart that has blue bars on it. If they answered disagree or strongly disagree, then they got a secondary question that they could respond to. So when you look at page 36, while we had 431 parents respond to the survey, only 45 parents answered disagree or strongly disagree. So that N, the number of respondents, changes drastically. And I think that's important when you look at those secondary question pages, that when you look at 49% said this, 31% said this, I had them, they did not have these, but I asked them to put the N down the left-hand side, because that's not 431 people stating that concern, it's 45 people, and then it's a percentage of that 45 stating that concern. It's still important to us, and that data is still very critical for us to know, but it's important to know that those pages with the blue are not the full number of people that took the survey, because if someone said agree or strongly agree with the statement, then they weren't asked to address the more specific question. Again, when you look at page 38, you'll see there campus-based staff. The N for that is only 5 people. So that's a pretty low number to start to, I mean, we still need to hear that data, but that's a pretty low number to base a lot of major decisions on. Secondary students, out of the number that responded, which is close to 560, 180 did say disagree or strongly disagree. So that N is relevant to us, and those are some things we definitely need to investigate and look at why they have those feelings. And you know, that goes along with some of the things in our strategic plan and doing some student feedback sessions, and some of those things we want to do hopefully will help us drive down into finding out why some of those answers were what they are. If you turn to page 43, we get into the net promoter scores. And I do want to explain these. So basically, these questions said, how likely are you to recommend your child's school to a family member or friend? And then the second question is, how likely are you to recommend this district to your family or friend? The first thing that you're going to notice is that in all of the groups, they would recommend the building a little bit more than they would recommend the district. And that's not surprising. I would bet if you asked, would you recommend your child's teacher to a friend, that number would be even higher, right? They love their teacher, they like their building, and they not quite as much like the district. That's very common. That was one of the questions I asked when we asked about the survey data. So the way a net promoter score works is you have people who say they would promote the district, people that are passive on promoting the district, and people who are what their survey calls detractors on promoting the district. If 100% of the respondents in a certain area said they're detractors, your score would be minus 100. If 100% of your people said that they are promoters of the entity, the district or the building, your net promoter score would be a positive 100. So my first question is, I'm a math guy, 27 out of 100 seems low. They said anything positive is good, because really your average would be you have as many detractors as you have promoters, and your score would be 0. So a positive net promoter score is good. Obviously, the more positive it is, the better off you are. They said that our net promoter scores from our parents and guardians are very similar to all of the other districts that they conduct this survey with. And they are positive 27 for their school and positive 25 for the district. Campus-based staff, our net promoter score for their building was 35, and for the district was 29, again positive and a slightly bit more positive. We are very happy with that. And then we get to the net promoter score of our secondary students, and we drop to minus 55 for their school and minus 52 for their district. We spent a lot of time talking with the researcher on this topic. She basically informed us that pre-COVID, most districts were seeing this net promoter score in the range of minus 35 to approximately minus 45. And post-COVID, they're seeing these numbers in the minus 45 to minus 50 range. So I'm going to openly be transparent and admit that our net promoter scores from our secondary students are a little bit more negative than they are in a lot of other districts. But it's not negative 55 different than a lot of other districts. It's 5 to 7 points lower than the other districts. So still something we need to look at, still something we need to consider. The interesting thing about all of this is, as we went through this survey in detail as an administrative team, the administrators were already saying, well, the PD on my second day is already going to address that. There wasn't a lot in this survey that caught us off guard. They already knew some of the areas that we needed to work on this year, and they already had professional development in place, and they're already starting to put things in place in their buildings to make sure that we're working on these areas. So that was reassuring to me as the administrative team met and talked through this survey. The last pages, 50 through 53, are a summary of the open-ended responses. So basically what the researcher does is they take all of the open-ended responses and they find themes, and then they tell us what those themes are. And so this is not every single comment. This is a summary of kind of the themes in the open-ended responses from parents, staff, students, and elementary students. And obviously, one of the topics, and it was not surprising to us, and we know it's something we need to work on, was instances of bullying, harassment, and bully-like behavior. And that is, according to the researcher, commonly a high concern amongst parents, students, and staff. Ours is slightly a bigger concern than in other districts. And again, I'm going to be fully transparent. We know that, and that's something that we want to work on. Some of that might be perception, and that we just haven't done a good enough job of advertising the anti-bullying things that we do. And it's interesting, if you look back into the specific questions that deal with bullying, our parents think that it's worse than our students do, which tells me that there's definitely some perception concern there. I mean, if our parents feel it's worse than our students, then we've got some work to do just to help people understand. We still have a problem we need to work on, but some of it might be just a true understanding when our parents feel that it's not treated as well or happens more often than our students do. That was kind of telling to me. So again, I'm not going to go through all of these summary comments. They are there, and they will be there for the entire community to observe. My goal is before the weekend to have this on the website and have it prominently shared with our community as a whole. And with that, I will answer any questions or hear comments that you have regarding the first K-12 Insight survey that we conducted.
Can you just talk a little bit more about the plans going forward, how you're going to take these results, and what is the administrative team plan with these results?
So part of what we will do is this survey will be on our agenda at each of our monthly administrative meetings. And so we talked a lot about it at the first go around, but this will be on each of our administrative agendas when we meet monthly, so that we can talk a little bit about what are the areas we need to focus on. That may differ from building to building, to be honest, because some buildings had a little bit different response than other buildings. And then we will develop professional development. We will develop community sessions around these. We will do student input sessions. The principals, as you know, in my evaluation with you, I talked about wanting to get out to each of the buildings and do some student input sessions. The principals said they would love to sit in on those and be a part of it. And so that would give us a chance for the principal and I to hear some of those comments coming from the students in their building. So we have some tentative plans in place for some of them, but this will be a year-long process at each monthly meeting to talk about and share, okay, what are we doing so far? What do we think we still need to do? How do we continue to improve that? And then, the telltale sign will be next year when we give this same survey. Do we see improvements in those scores? And if we do, then we need to continue to do more. And if we don't, then the things that we put in place didn't quite get where we wanted to be, and we will continue to work on those.
So the timing of the survey is going to be consistent?
It was a little bit late in the school year this year. We'd like to have it a couple of weeks earlier, but by the time we got the contract in place and got everything done, it was a little bit later this year than we would like it to be, but the survey will always be done in I'll just say the last month of the school year.
So that people can start to get used to that cadence and
Yep.
know, okay.
Absolutely. And there is the possibility, like I said, that we may use them to conduct some other surveys. This one will stay consistent and be at the end of the year. I'm interested in seeing if they have a survey to seek input from the community specifically about communications that might drill down and support a little bit of what our communications committee is telling us, like how do parents want to be communicated with? What is the best method? Because the interesting thing is when we talk about communication, we have some parents that tell us we over-communicate and some parents that tell us that we under-communicate. And I think some of that comes from what source are parents using, and are we using that to the biggest advantage? And so this survey will always be in the last month, but we may use this organization to conduct some other surveys on real specific topics.
Other questions or concerns?
Yes.
Does the survey collect demographic data for the respondents?
No.
Is there an option to do that? But the reason I ask is, while the responses, so I'm looking at the under-treatment responses, parents and students, while it appears that 45 individuals, 431 expressed concerns with under-treatment. I'm wondering if you can then link those 45 responses to demographic data, because I think it would be
Right.
helpful to know if all of the individuals, all of those 45 fall
Right.
into this
Right.
demographic.
Right, if those 45 are all from a traditionally marginalized group, then that starts to have more meaning than if it's from a little bit more general group. I will talk to K-12 Insights and see if that's something, and they may have a reason why they don't ask that, I don't know, but that's something I can definitely investigate with them.
Other questions or concerns? All right, thank you. This brings us back to public comment. Reminder that this meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public meeting. There are 2 times for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. When addressing the board, you will be asked to state your name. The board determines the amount of time granted to individuals or groups to speak. Each person shall be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. I will give you a 30-second warning, and I ask you to finish your thought when the timer goes off. Board members may question speakers, but are not obligated to answer questions or make statements or commitments in response to issues raised by the public. In general, such items will be referred to the superintendent for advisement, investigation, study, and/or recommendation, or designated as future agenda items for board consideration. Are there any students who would like to address the board? Are there any public members who would like to address the board?
Melissa Brown. Mr. Gerbaugh, I just have a question on, you said that our numbers were comparable with other survey results that this firm has completed. I'm curious, were those school districts in Michigan, were they the same size, demographic? I think that information, and if, I don't know if you can present who those school districts are when you post the surveys, just so we can have an idea. I don't know, but just to know that those results were comparable to our school district would be helpful as a parent. And then if you said that you're going to post this on the website, where on the website will it be posted?
I will put it right under the current topics, so it'll be right on the front page.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Are there others? All right, thank you for the comments. Next up is superintendent comments. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Just a couple of things to share this evening. First, and I've been saying this at several board meetings, but the district wants to remind all of our students and families that the program that provided free breakfasts and lunches to all students ended at the end of last school year. Today, some of you may be on your way here at about 6 o'clock, received an email or a text or a phone call or all of the above, letting our families know that it is critical that if they feel they qualify for free or reduced breakfasts and lunches, that they complete an application. The email had the link directly to the application, and the email also had the chart, because sometimes I think families think, oh, we're not quite low enough to qualify. So I wanted that chart right out in the email so that families can say, we have 4 people, oh, wait a minute, I might qualify, it is worth my time applying. And I really recommend that even families that feel they're on the border apply. so that we can really work on getting everyone who deserves this additional support free lunch and free breakfast. It's really important to understand that if your child qualifies, they will not get free breakfast and lunch at the beginning of the school year if we don't have an approved application on file. It's illegal for us to do that. So we can't have families that are counting on, well, they got it last year, or I applied and I qualified 3 years ago, and then we went into free for everybody, so I should qualify now. It's an annual application that has to be done. And so that's why that message went out today, and we will continue to push that message. So if you know anyone, please make sure that you get this information to them. It's also important to understand that there are some situations that are automatically certified, and it's what's called a direct certification list. But people should make sure that they're on that list, and those are if a student is homeless. And remember, homeless can mean you're doubled up living with friends. If you're a foster care student, there are a lot of students that automatically qualify for free or reduced lunch. But I don't want parents to count on that. They should contact the phone number in the email and make sure they're on that direct cert list, or fill out an application just in case. I don't want to see anyone that deserves this extra support not get it, even for a day. And so it's critical that these applications get filled out so that we can start serving these students free and reduced breakfast and lunch the first day of school. Yes.
Would you say you're doubling up with friends? Does that include teachers maybe living with aunts and uncles and grandparents?
I don't want to say 100% yes, but a lot of times, yes. The district also wants to remind our entire community that we do offer a free preschool program to eligible families. It is a state-funded program called Great Start Readiness. Please make sure you understand we have a tuition preschool program as well as a free preschool program. And we have sought all of the families in our tuition-based program to really make sure that they don't qualify for the free. That's one place that we can go to families and really say, hey, you're paying tuition, let's look and see if you would qualify for free. To qualify for free, a family's income has to be below the 250th percentile of the federal poverty guidelines. And again, if you don't know if your family is there, but you want preschool for your child, just reach out to 734-439-5159, and Lisa Mellinger or one of her staff members will help you walk through that process to determine whether your preschooler qualifies for free preschool. Today's opening professional development was very successful. We started the day all together as a district, and one of the main things that I did was I relaunched the district strategic plan. We spent a lot of time here talking about that, and we spent a lot of time working on that, and a lot of folks in the district have been working on it somewhat behind the scenes for the last 2 years. But it was really important that we rolled that out to the entire staff and talked about the goals and talked about what those goals mean and talked about some of the work we'll be doing this year to really get back on track on our work on the strategic plan. That was very well accepted by the staff, and I think they appreciate and could recognize some of the things we had already done under the strategic plan and things that we still need to work on the strategic plan. The late morning and afternoon were spent in the buildings with building-specific professional development taking place. I was able to visit 2 of the buildings today during that training, and I will make sure to hit the other 2 buildings tomorrow, as they will spend the entire day in their buildings on building-specific professional development. And then Thursday, we will be back together here in the theater with additional staff joining us for a presentation, a day-long presentation and professional development conducted by Dr. James Henry. He's a nationally recognized speaker on trauma-informed instruction. And we're really excited to have a person that speaks not just in Michigan, but across the country and across the nation. We're blessed that he actually does a lot of his work out of Western Michigan University. But he is truly one of the, I guess I'll use the term gurus in this area. And as you know, we've had about 2 years of work with our own trauma-informed instruction committee that was made up of our social workers and our counselors and some other staff. And so it's nice to be able to bring in a national speaker that will really help solidify the work that they've done and really help us continue to launch that work as that committee will continue to do work in the district throughout the years to come. Just
a question. Do we have the space to allow an invite to some of the other districts if they wanted to send any of their people?
We did not do that this time, but that is something we could investigate in the future. Just an update on school safety. Many of you know, if you've been at the last couple of meetings, that there was a concern about doors at the high school and the spaces that the paraprofessionals work with students in. Mr. Shin and I did tour the building. We determined about 7 or 8 of the common spaces that the parapros take students to, and there are rooms in every hallway so that they're easily accessible. We have the locksmith scheduled to come out and look at those doors and figure out what is the best way. We've got about 3 possible solutions. We have those ranked in the order that we feel would be the ease of use for the paraprofessionals. As soon as we can get the locksmith out, we will get those changes made, and we'll make sure that our parapros can lock and secure the doors behind them in the case of an emergency. Also, as I stated at the last meeting in October, we do have an outside agency called SEC that will be coming in to do a safety audit of the entire district. They'll be spending 2 days here, and they go through safety plans, they go through facilities, they go through operations, they go through procedures, and then they will provide us a confidential report that helps us understand some of the areas that they feel we need to work on and improve, and then we will start to begin working on those areas of concern. I felt it was valuable to bring an outside agency in, and actually this year in the school aid budget, there's money to actually pay for that audit. So it will be a free to the district. I had actually worked on scheduling this at the end of last year, and thankfully the company said, you know what, hold off till the beginning of next year because you might save yourself $8,000 to $10,000. And he knew what he was talking about because about 3 weeks later, the governor signed the bill that now is going to cover the cost of this safety audit. And that's all that I have. Thank you.
Mr. Gearbaugh, would you remind people that we do have a 9th grade orientation tomorrow here at the high school at 12:30?
Yes, thank you. We do have a 9th grade orientation tomorrow here at the high school, and I'm sorry, what was the time? 12:30. So any incoming freshmen are welcome to come and receive information about the high school and classes and programs and extracurricular activities and everything MHS. Thank you for the reminder.
Thank you, Mr. Gearbaugh. Mr. McMahon.
Yeah, as Superintendent Gearbaugh mentioned, we had teachers back today. It was really good to have life back in the buildings. It's, you know, the administrators are pretty much here all summer, but with just the custodians doing the cleaning, when you get the teachers back in and the paras and staff, it's good to have some life back in the building. But I do want to highlight a couple of the activities that we've been working on this week related to purchases that we've made recently. So yesterday, our 3rd grade teachers, on their own time, because today was the first day back officially, went through a training on the MAP reading fluency, which is the assessment from NWEA that we're going to use as a dyslexia screener. We talked about that a while back. So the training for them was yesterday, and then the K2 teachers did that today as part of their day back. We had a rep come in from the company on both days, and that was a very helpful training. We're still working on the integration, the rostering. There's some issues there that I've been working with the tech department. They've been phenomenal. And I just want to thank the tech department. I'll just add that in because I'm surprised they still answer the phone calls for me because I'm calling them constantly because all these programs now that we purchase require rostering, which is not as easy as it might sound. We have to go into Power School, pull out the data we need. It's different for every system. There's different ways of doing it. Some are single sign-on, some are not, some are customized. So they're really working hard to get there. So we're getting that worked out, and that'll be good to go by the start of the school year. Yesterday, middle school and high school social studies teachers spent 3 hours of their time doing an HMH training. It was live but virtual, so the trainer was remote, and it was a really good training. I was there. it unlocked a lot of resources that this tool provides for us, so that was really helpful. And I think it generated some excitement. So they were digging in today, I know, and looking forward to just really working through that program. Also, the teachers at Paddock and Simons will be doing their social studies training this week, well, tomorrow, actually, because Thursday's a district day. And part of the Inquiry Journeys training for their curriculum is that we name inquiry advocates that are our teachers that will lead the trainings. And they're not experts in the curriculum, they're not necessarily trainers, they're like lead teachers. So they're going to go through some of the trainings prior. So we had 6 teachers, 3 at each building, went through last week the orientation session. They're going to help facilitate that tomorrow in their buildings. And I just want to point out who that is because I'm really appreciative of their time. So at Paddock, it's Connie Rose, Melissa Maycheck, and Aaron Knotts. There are inquiry advocates there. And at Simons, it's Lisa Drawheim, Jake Lacrosse, and Sarah Farmer. There are inquiry advocates at Simons. So they're putting in extra work, and we really appreciate that. And it's a real exciting time to get these programs up and running, because we put a lot of work into getting them here, and now we're trying to make them work to our advantage. So that's it. I would also like to welcome Chris to the district administrative team. So thanks for coming tonight. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. McMahon. Next up is board comments.
I have a few things.
Ms. Macchio.
Let me pull this closer, sorry. I wanted to officially welcome Mrs. Rosenleacher since I was not at the last meeting. So Betty, it's great to have you. And I wanted to mention, I did see that our Milan Library is doing a college essay class coming up in September, and I wanted to share that for our high schoolers and families. So on Tuesday, September 13th at the Senior Center at 6:30, they're having a workshop that helps high schoolers get ready to write those college essays. And been there, done that with my 2 girls, so I know how stressful that is, and it's always great to get some good tips. And our library puts on great programs, so hopefully this will be one of them. And I just, wanted to wish everybody a great beginning of the school year next year. There's so much that goes on to get ready for the first day, and there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, like Mr. McMahon just acknowledged about our tech department. So we hope that this is a healthy and safe and less stress school year for everyone. So know that we appreciate all the work that goes into that and all the work that our staff is doing this week before the kids even enter the building. I think that's it. And I was looking at the calendar, and I saw that our next meeting is the same night as the open house in the school where I teach. So whether or not I will be here is completely up in the air about how long that goes. So just want to mention that in case I'm absent. That's it for me.
Thank you, Ms. Macchio. Others?
Mr. Sislo.
Mr. Farrow.
I just wanted to comment that I was at the opening day today with Brian, Ryan, the administrators, teachers, staff. This was the first time that I had been to one, and it was really nice to see some new faces, see some returning faces. I thought Brian did a great job in terms of the overview of the strategic plan, kind of a reintroduction to it. So that was something I had did this morning. I also want to thank Melissa Brown for being here from the Communications Committee and giving the community an update. Also welcome Mr. Sandberg. I'm glad you chose Milan. Looking forward to getting to know you. And I think that you'll enjoy being here in our community. And also I just want to echo what Carrie said. I just want to welcome back our teachers, our support staff, our admin team. I hope that you all have a great year, and if we can help somehow, we will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrow. Others?
Mr. Sislo?
Yes, Ms. Freight.
Thank you. Mr. DeMars, you're right. I apologize. I was caught off guard when those readings first happened, and I had a discussion with Mr. Sislo and Mrs. Kiger following, and I think that those things will at least be acknowledged and addressed in the future. So I apologize for that. And Brian, I would also like to thank you for the keys in addressing the parapros. Having been in the building and not having that during the drills, I know that feeling, and I appreciate you adamantly looking into that and giving our parapros that sense of safety, and our students as well. I'm also looking forward to, I imagine we won't have them until October, our student representatives at some point. So
I will
probably
get with
have
Mr. Shin and see where we are on getting
I know
them
we've been
selected.
working on the format of our agenda, and I'm like, we probably have to slip that back in there because it's always exciting to have them back in. welcome, Mr. Sandberg. Appreciate you being here again. And I appreciate our audience members and especially our communications committee people because you spend a lot of time with us. Thank you for that, Russ and Melissa and Alicia. And I'm excited for a new school year. So I'm looking forward to seeing our students and recognizing all of our their accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Freight. Others? I just have a couple things. The board was in receipt of an email from a community member in regards to recognition of a retired teacher. I'm going to forward that on to our Buildings and Grounds Committee to take a look at in general. So just so everybody's aware in regards to that. And then the other thing, I want to put a reminder out there of the next Big Red Chat is going to be September 14th. Which is the Wednesday before. It's going to be the same night as the board meeting. It'll be just prior to the board meeting, so it'll be 5:30 to 6:45. We're going to hold it down in the high school cafeteria. Ms. Freight, Ms. Rosenleacher, and me are going to be the board members present at that. The main topic of presentation will be the strategic plan. I think you have heard that we're definitely out rolling that out, as Mr. Gearbaugh indicated to the staff. We also want to do so for the community. And just a reminder that the meeting is not just for the strategic plan. Anybody that attends is welcome to ask questions of any concerns or issues that they may have, and we'll do our best to have that conversation. So again, really it's another method of two-way communication between the board and the community. So again, September 14th, that's the Wednesday before the board meeting. It's a Big Red Chat from 5:30 to 6:45 in the Milan High School cafeteria. And I also want to echo everybody's thoughts. Welcome back to all of our staff. We know you guys do great work, and we're excited for the great work that you will continue, and we do look forward to seeing this survey next year with increased promoters for our district. It's very important that everybody has Big Red pride in our schools, in our district, in our community. Any other questions or comments? Sure.
Yes, I've been working with our head librarian. She did take a week vacation. I told her take a couple of days to get some of your data and things back in place. Hopefully next week we are going to meet and talk about some of the options that our system Destiny allows us to use to communicate with parents regarding books that their children have checked out of the libraries. So we hope to get that in place. I will definitely have an update at the next board meeting, and then hopefully within a couple of weeks of that, we should be able to get that up and rolling and get some type of communication in place.
I also want to let the community know the last board meeting I announced that the books I had already read and I finished, I had some call last week. I would like to encourage community members
Thank you, Ms. Heika. Others? All right, next on the agenda is I need a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Michigan Open Meetings Act and upon the request of the employee for the purpose of conducting a periodic personnel evaluation.
Moved by Farrow.
Support by Macchio.
It's been moved and supported. Just a reminder to our audience that once we approve this motion, we will go into closed session. The meeting is not over, but there is no further business that the board will do when we return to open session. You are definitely welcome to stay here, but just so you know, the only order of business that we will do upon our return is the adjournment of the meeting. Any other questions or comments? All right, it's been moved and supported to enter into closed session pursuant to Section 8A of the Michigan Open Meetings Act upon the request of the employee for the purpose of conducting a periodic personnel evaluation. Ms. Heika.
Yes.
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 All right. The time of closed session?
8:15.
8:15, so we're entering closed session at 8:15. Thank you for attending this evening. Drive home safely.
Well, we'll talk.
All right, the meeting is adjourned at 10:40.